Community of Practice. It's really, really great to have you all here. I think we'll make a proper start now, if that's okay. I'm going to start by just introducing myself. My name's Alice Kilby. I'm consultant therapist for falls prevention at Nottinghamshire Healthcare NHS Trust. And it's my job to provide strategic leadership on all things falls for this organisation. But that really means working with lots of other people too, and working with lots of people across our health and social care system. And that's what this community of practice is all about too. I'm not. We do have a little project team who are here as well. I'm not going to get them to introduce themselves just now because everybody's getting a turn to talk, and I'll let them introduce themselves as we move through the content of today. But the only person who's not going to talk, and I'll just say a little thank you to him, is Adam, who's doing lots of work behind the scenes and really helps us with some of the bits that we as clinicians are not good at. So thank you to Adam. And then I'll let the rest of the project team and people who are involved in today's event introduce themselves as we go along. So I've been really looking forward to this event. The last two events we've had have created that ripple effect that we wanted. Actually, no, it's not we haven't done that. You've all done that. You've created that ripple. We've just cast the stone. So thank you, everybody, for continuing the conversations about falls prevention, about moving more in the areas that you work in. It's great to hear and see the effects of meetings like this and the effects of the passion and enthusiasm and some of the challenges that you've talked about at the previous events. And I can feel that happening in the conversations that I'm having in my work, and I hope you are too. We've definitely got more to do, and that's why we're keeping going and keeping the conversation happening. But really it's about learning and sharing and doing it together, and that's what a community practice is all about. So thank you to all of you, and really that's what it's you that this session today is dedicated to and is dedicated for. It's all about hearing your stories and learning from each other. So this is what we're going to do today. We've got some fabulous examples of how people promote physical activity by working with others and working together. But we're going to start by recapping the community of practice story so far. It's your story, it's our story. And then we've got lovely examples of collaborative working across health and social care system. And we've put them into the 3 domains that the community practice has identified as part of the previous events. So from the community, we've got Alan, who works in the MSK Physio service, telling us about the work that they've been doing with local exercise instructors. Then we've got our County Dementia Outreach Service talking about the work they do in promoting activity in care homes. And then we've got a really lovely video from the team at Sherwood Forest talking about what they do to promote activity for people while they're in their clinical acute setting. And that's John's story. Then it's over to you. It's the breakout rooms. This is the bit that's dedicated to you. This is about you sharing your stories. And we heard at the last event that real desire to connect with each other, find out about each other's services, find out how we can all work together, whatever our role, our grade, our profession, our experience. It's about connecting people in our place and sharing what you do to promote movement, to promote that joy of quality of movement, and to promote strength and balance exercises. We'd like you to take what you found inspiring from the stories that you've heard from Alan and Jackie and Lindsay and John's story. Take what you found inspiring from them and share that with others. We've got a lovely chunk of time in that breakout room together. That's what most of the session is today, actually. And then we'll be coming back together to share how we can continue telling those stories and sharing those stories on our NHS Futures platform. So do stick around for that bit because we need your help. We need you to make this Futures platform a success. We need you to tell us what's going to be really useful for you on that Futures platform. So we've purposely been a bit sneaky and not got a break. But if you do need to, go to the loo, get a coffee, do whatever you need to do, take a phone call, that's absolutely fine. But do come back and join us and continue that conversation and continue sharing that story. Right. So the story, I'll kickstart us with the story of the community of practice. And I'll start by saying these illustrations, I'm just so chuffed with them. They're really beautiful illustrations of capturing the events we've had so far, which is really, really lovely. Oh, do you know what I haven't done? I'm hoping that Adam's recording the meeting. I haven't checked that. I'm assuming he is, so I'll just carry on. The Community of Practice for Falls and Physical Activity in Nottinghamshire was launched in November 21. And it was an online event that saw 80 people dial in and nearly 100 people engage in that event. And it was born off the back of the effects of lockdown that we'd all seen and felt and heard, either personally or professionally, and then Public Health England produced this paper saying if we don't do anything about this effects of deconditioning, more and more people are going to fall over. And that really was a real driving force for us to all come together and to share and learn and think how we're going to tackle this issue of deconditioning. So we launched our first event and we asked you all, and you told us, and it was brilliant. The energy in that room really created that ripple of sharing knowledge and experience. And it was really lovely to be part of, really energizing space. And that helped us as a project team, you sharing your challenges, the things that you were doing really well, the things, those themes that we heard from listening to you, really helped us create what this community is about. We identified 3 themes that we've created as pillars for this community, and the work around workforce, you all, and how we can support each other. The positioning of physical activity and falls prevention, and how it's such an important part of people's lives, and how we need to see that system pivot shift into talking more about it. And then also really developing the evidence-based activity and looking at what is the research telling us, what works, and how can we apply that in our practice. We also thought about how we could hear our patient, our service users, our people's voices in all of that, and gathered as much energy and ideas as we could around that. So those pillars really helped us shape the next event, where we heard about the evidence base for strength and balance intervention. We talked about the continuum of strength and balance exercise over somebody's life journey, and thought about where we as clinicians, as health and social care, as exercise instructors, as people who support others to move more, we thought about where we fit in that continuum of strength and balance. And listening to you all in the breakout rooms helped us shape these domains that we're using today to share our stories. So we recognised that there was work in the clinical setting, in care setting, and in the community that we can influence and shape and grow and learn together. We also heard that desire for connection, and we built themes around we built those themes. That desire for connection is what's led us on to shape this agenda today. So I hope you're going to find it useful, because this community of practice is about being led by you and hearing from you. So with that being said, let's crack on. I think while you're listening to these speakers next, grab a pen and pencil, jot down anything that's feeling really interesting to you. And then we can share that in the breakout rooms. I'm going to introduce Alan now, who I can't see on my screen, but I'm hoping is going to pop up and start talking about his work that he's been doing with the MSK physios and exercise instructors.
I am here, which is good.
Hi, Alan. Excellent.
Hello, hello.
Lovely.
Are you all right still having those slides up? And I'll just give you a little nod to move them on. Is that all right?
Alan, I don't have your slides actually, so I was expecting you to share them. Apologies.
Okay, no worries. I probably can. Do you want to give me control? Do I need that to share? Ah, yeah, there we go. Let's have a go. How are we doing? Can we see that? Shows
Yeah, we've
my
got your
lack of
screen, and then we just need to. We've got it. You're there. Brilliant. Thank you, Alan.
lovely stuff. Okay, so who am I? I'm Alan. I'm an MSK physio working in Midnot, so Ashfield and Mansfield predominantly. And Alice asked me to just do a bit of presentation on what we've done. So we want to just talk about how we work collaboratively with some local gyms, some local gym instructors, particularly, just to deliver some care. So I'm not specifically a falls physio or working in falls, but there's certainly some lovely overlap about how we can integrate services and start working really well. Keep working. I'm sure we're all doing fantastic work already. Keep working together. So we've been involved in a shift of delivering care from just an NHS setting to putting it out in the community. So delivering care where people are, where people are at, which is so important, isn't it? That NHS setting can seem very clinical, which of course is one of our layers, isn't it? But we want to get care out to where people need it and where they are. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So previously, what have we been delivering? So within the MSK service, we do obviously lots of one-to-one, but we've been delivering group setting, group exercise, group therapy. These were all these groups are the OA group, so the arthritis group, a group for back, shoulders, knees, general exercise. Were all being delivered in clinic before COVID. Yeah, that used a lot of clinical space, which after COVID has been a premium, hasn't it? So we had to have a think and a reevaluate of how do we deliver services to people with the space we've got and with the equipment and the staff that we've got. So we had to have a think about that. And it's not overly revolutionary thinking, but we thought, right, let's get it out there. Let's get it to where people are in the communities. So we had to think about those changes. We know from there's a great evidence base, NICE guidelines supports the use of groups for managing arthritis, for back pain. We've done previous audits which show that these groups are effective. People attend, people enjoy attending, and people get a lot of long-standing exercise-based change into their lives. So we know they work. We just need to find a place to run them, a place to get people involved. Yeah. So what do we do? Up here in Kirkby, there's Lammas Leisure Centre. So it's run with, it's sort of council run, but it's everyone active is sort of the lead, the owners of this gym. And we had a conversation with them. We said, right, what can we do? What have you got available for us? We had a really good conversation. I think this is, if I was taking home anything from what I say, hopefully it's people are so accommodating. I'm talking from an NHS bias, of course, because that's where I'm based. But the gym setting, everyone active, was so helpful in going, right, yeah, absolutely. We want to see people get more physically active. We want to see people move in, making lifestyle changes. And it was an incredibly easy thing, surprisingly so, to get that going. We had a bit of a pre-existing relationship with them, with a GP gym referral scheme, but they were really accommodating, and we then started working with the instructors there as well, which has been excellent, which has made such a difference to our delivery of the care, but also the understanding of the gym and where we are. So there's clear benefits to the leisure centre. It's got great equipment, which is not present necessarily in all of our clinical spaces, is it? Some have great, but the gym has such perfect equipment to use. The gym staff are excellent and very good. It frees up some of our physiotherapist time to get people moving and active in a gym setting. On on a pragmatic sense, we're also, and this is going to be unique in some respects, it's not a big financial outlay for us either as a service. There's seen as a real mutual benefit because we're training their staff to an extent in terms of the exercise use and some of the courses that we're running there, and lots of people are then referring into the gym afterwards. So there's a real mutual benefit to what we're doing. We're also stretching this out. We're no longer just using Lammas. We're going into Blidworth. We're going into the new leisure centre in Kirkby. So we're broadening as well, which shows how it's going really, which is great. When I was talking to Alice, she said, make sure you're not just showing all the positives, because there's inevitably some problems involved in setting up anything new and trying to push forward change. So some of the problems we encountered, or we thought perhaps we were going to encounter, was this perception of what a gym is, this perception of it's just going to be people throwing weights around, and that daunting setting that I think some of us have in our minds, and some of us probably on this chat have in our minds, don't we? There was also that loss of that comfort blanket, perhaps, of the NHS. People come into the NHS and thankfully feel safe and supported, hopefully. Putting that out in the community was perhaps daunting for some of our service users. We also weren't sure if people would come to an unfamiliar setting. There was a lack of understanding of perhaps what that knowledge of the gym instructors would be. And again, some of that's reputation based of those instructors that get people doing everything and anything without necessarily thinking about it. But I think all of our perceptions were wrong, and I think we'd put those blocks in place rather than them being a reality. So overcoming these problems, as I say, most of our problems were an issue of perception rather than actually what we found when we got in there. The gym instructors are excellent. They're fantastic colleagues to work with. Their knowledge of exercise, their knowledge of the gyms, their supportive nature is brilliant. The thing I found most encouraging, perhaps, is the users of the gym. It is not in any way just big young people throwing weights around, and there are so many users there that are in probably our target group, aren't they, of that maybe slightly older patient or service user that's maybe a little bit more frail or a little bit got some comorbidities and other issues, but they're using the gym because it's a safe place to be. And I think as people enter that gym environment, they feel so reassured by, oh, actually, there's people like me in this gym. There's people like me making changes, making lifestyle changes, getting stronger, becoming more physically active. As Alice mentioned, that continuum of strength and balance across a lifetime. If we're getting in now, we can start seeing some lifestyle changes that are long lasting and hopefully last a lifetime. I won't bore you with that. We set some goals and we stuck to them when we're starting to deliver the service. So it's going great, and it's been a real positive for our patients. In terms of patient care, then the feedback so far has been overwhelmingly positive, and most of it comes back to, oh, I wasn't sure about it, but actually it's been great. And this is where I want to encourage us to talk about this in these breakout groups of, as Alice said, the evidence base for falls prevention, the evidence base for exercise groups is huge, particularly in that arthritis, in back pain. And I know that you've all looked into that evidence base for falls prevention as well. So it's making sure that we're sticking with that, but knowing that getting into these gyms, getting into these environments that are meeting people where they're at, where they live, is so important and so helpful. And it's giving people ownership of their own health again. I think sometimes because the NHS is there, people rely on it heavily, which is sometimes needed, isn't it? Of course, in that clinical setting, in that care setting. But often we've got a big population of people that just need to know what to do and how to do it and how to keep doing it. And so that's where, if we can facilitate and educate, then amazing. We're in such a good place then. We're wanting to do this more and more, move even more of this out of that GP setting and into that community setting. That's where we're headed, where we're going. I've probably said some of this already. How does it link to you? Let's use those gyms, use those community facilities. Everyone active, active knots. There's so many great services out there that hopefully are on the call as well. Putting clinics where they are, demedicalising it, just getting people active and strength and balance across that lifetime. And talking from that NHS bias, we might be surprised at how approachable, helpful, fantastic some of these services that aren't NHS run are. So let's build these links, and I'm sure that's what you guys have been doing in the community of falls prevention. We're building links and building knowledge around what's out there, what's available. So that's what we've been doing, and I can see it happening more and more. So brilliant. I hope you guys can keep doing that and keep doing it, and I look forward to being part of that implementation if possible. So yeah, that's me. That's what I've got to talk about.
Thank you, Alan. It's really great. Thank you so much. It's really interesting hearing those conversations about perception, isn't it? It's probably that fabulous challenge to some biases that potentially we all hold in ourselves, and it's really great to hear your success of bringing things to the person and where they want it and where they need it to be. Thank you very, very much, Alan. We're going to move on to our next story now. And this is from the County Dementia Outreach team. And they've prepared a lovely video for us, which I'm going to share now.
Thank you for inviting us to share our story today. We are two of the OTs from the Dementia Outreach Service.
Here's an overview of our service and referral criteria. We're a county-wide service consisting of community psychiatric nurses, OTs, community support workers, and we have access to a consultant psychiatrist. Our criteria dictates that all our patients are permanent residents living in residential or nursing care and have a confirmed diagnosis of dementia. The individual has a complex mental health need, or they present with challenging and distressed behaviours. Referrals come directly from the care homes, from the GP, or from the care home team.
So what does the Dementia Outreach Service aim to do? We aim to support people living with dementia in care homes who may have behavioural and psychological symptoms of dementia, otherwise known as BPSD. We put an emphasis on improving their quality of life and their mental well-being. We provide support and advice to staff in care homes, for example, role modelling, care plan guidance and intervention. We work alongside the care home staff in planning and developing individual treatment plans as defined by our assessments. We monitor antipsychotic medication, ensuring the lowest possible use and promote non-pharmacological approaches. We work in partnership with other disciplines and agencies to enhance person-centred care planning, which includes working with primary health colleagues, safeguarding teams and quality team.
The role of OT within Dementia Outreach Service is to assess, advise and support on individualised care planning within the care home setting to promote meaningful and purposeful activity and promote the individual skills and their abilities so that their quality of life is prioritised. Activity is our treatment.
The importance of activity. Why is it important? Just want to read two statements to you. The first one is from NICE, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. The second is from the College of Occupational Therapists. So, activity helps to sustain our physical and mental health and is essential to living a fulfilling life. So it is important that older people in care homes are offered opportunities to participate in activities and interests that are meaningful to them. Also, when a person is left to sit for most of the day with little movement or stimulation, their physical and emotional well-being can suffer. They may experience muscle wasting, poor sleep patterns, loss of appetite, confusion, low mood, and poor concentration. This is not an exhaustive list.
We all appreciate and acknowledge the health benefits, both physical and mental, of what engaging in activity can offer us. I won't read down on the list, but just cast your eyes down, and I'm sure a lot of this is all very familiar. So what happens when we're denied activity or have limited access to activity? As you can see, they can be very negative and have damaging consequence to the individual and to those people around them, staff and other residents. The sense of self diminishes. We see an escalation of challenging behaviours, a loss of confidence, increased stress, anxiety, and general deconditioning physically, which then can result in increased falls.
So how do dementia outreach promote activity in care homes? We encourage staff to be less task driven and more person focused. This allows more time with the patient. It encourages them to have more involvement and gives the patient a sense of belonging. We encourage care home staff to utilise life history, which helps shape conversations and identify meaningful activities. Patients more likely to engage then. We make sure that we match the person's capabilities to the activity by grading and adapting. We need the activity to be just the right challenging, not too hard and not too easy. We encourage the sharing of information with staff within the care home, sharing what's gone well and what hasn't, and with families, between staff and families. Families know the person best and have lots of useful information. We encourage care home staff to look at the environment, the lighting, the seating layout, whether it's too noisy or too quiet. All these things will affect activity. We look at activity from a sensory point of view. Some of the most impaired patients with dementia can still engage in an activity, and it may be that something as simple as a hand massage or listening to music would help them. We want staff in care homes, and we try to encourage them to redefine the thought of activity. It's not just a group organised activity like bingo. It's not the holiday camp type activity. It's any activity. It's the walking to the window to look out. It's the choosing the clothes that you're going to wear that day. Anything simple. We also tap into community resources and put care homes in touch with community resources. For example, the university have students come out and read to patients. Local nurseries can have children coming in to care homes. Befrienders can come in, therapy pets. The library does reminiscence boxes. The other thing we do is host regular activity forums. These are carried out on MS Teams at the moment. In these forums, we try and share good practice, develop peer support, build networks between care homes, share and reflect on challenges, and raise awareness of the importance of activity. And we try and promote all the care staff involvement in these.
I'm just going to provide a brief case study now on a typical referral to dementia outreach service. So John was referred to us by his GP. He is presenting with physical aggression towards staff and verbal hostility towards residents. He presented with impulsive behaviours, which usually escalated around 5-6 o'clock in the evening. He was a high falls risk, and the falls analysis highlighted that his falls were linked to an escalation in his agitation. So Dementia Outreach went out and carried out their assessments. We gleaned information from his life history provided by his family. We identified his worker role, in which he was a plumber. And in his own time, he would tinker in his shed, undertaking household repairs, and he was described as a gentleman that was always on the go. We assessed his capabilities and we looked at positive risk management. He was able to engage in adapted tasks, and we looked at basic repairs and maintenance around the home under the supervision of the handyman at the care home. We gave him a pot of water and a paintbrush, and in one of the emptied, unused bedrooms, he would, what he believed was, paint the walls of the bedroom. We saw regular signs of well-being when engaged in such activities. Staff changed the language, and instead of inviting him down to the dining room for tea, just simply saying "down tools," cued John into recognising that his day was over and he was going to go home for his tea. We found out that his wife had always had the dinner ready for him on the table when he returned home from work, and this was replicated within the care home. As an outcome of our interventions, we saw reduced frequency and the severity of aggressive episodes, which therefore reduced the reliance on medication. And we also saw a reduction in the frequency of his falls. So hopefully this has provided you with a bit of flavour of what we do and how we promote activity within care homes and the therapeutic benefits. Thank you.
Ah, lovely. Thank you to both Jacqueline and Lindsay who prepared that presentation for us. I believe they had a great time making sure they weren't giggling all the way through that presentation. So thank you for sticking with it and preparing that for us. Jacqueline's on the call today, so those of you who are lucky enough to have it in the breakout room might be able to share a little bit more with her about the work that they do and the service that they offer. We're going to move on to our next domain, which is clinical. I'm going to reshare my screen.
Fabulous. Shall I?
Thanks, Beth.
Shall I do a quick introduction?
Go
Morning,
for
everyone.
it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. It's really, really great to see you all. My name's Beth. I'm one of the falls prevention practitioners at Sherwood Forest Hospitals up in Mansfield and Ashfield. And I'm a physio by background. We've heard some wonderful things about the community and the care sector. And in a little segment, we're going to think about the acute sector and acute healthcare, which poses lots of challenges. So we're going to hear about another John, who was one of our patients back in May, and hear about the struggles of staying active in hospital and how that not only affects him physically, but also psychologically, but also the power that we have as healthcare professionals and as humans and people in trying to encourage that activity to be that motivation that people often need to keep active and keep moving and keep themselves physically and psychologically well. So if you want to take it away, Alice, that's enough from me. Well, enough from live me. You'll hear from me again, unfortunately.
We're here celebrating National Walking Month, or Walk This May. And to celebrate this month, we are going to hear from our lovely patient, John, who's going to tell you about the importance of staying active in hospital and continuing to walk. And we'll also hear from some healthcare practitioners as well about their role in encouraging activity and being active whilst in hospital. Whilst it's important for our patients to be really, really active, it's important for everyone to be active. And so I'd love to encourage you all throughout National Walking Month to be as active as possible. Get out there and get walking.
Being active and walking whilst in hospital helps patients to keep their strength up, helps people's respiratory function, keeps their breathing good and reduces their risk of chest infections, and it helps them to get better quicker and out of hospital back to their own environment sooner. So I think all of us can encourage patients to get out of bed and walk more Partly that's through actually getting people up and out of bed and encouraging them on their feet. And it's also challenging why people might be on bed rest, because there's very few reasons that patients really need to be on bed rest in a hospital environment. So watching a patient recover from illness and get their mobility back is really satisfying, because you can see them recover to where they should be, and you can see the fruit of your labours by them getting back to the good, healthy state, back on their feet and back home.
I think the benefits of the patients being active in hospital are, I always say to them, if they don't use it, they'll lose it. I think patients, if you feel unwell, they tend to take to the bed. We know that it's longer hospital time. It takes a lot longer to discharge them. It brings more complex issues into discharging. I think they become normalised to being in bed. They've got an increased risk of getting chest infections because the breathing's altered. I know they're ill, but they need to mirror, obviously, what the home life is to get a quicker transition to home. So if we can keep everything as normal as possible with treating them, then I think that benefits them on discharge. I think staff on the ward to encourage patients to be more active and get out of bed. Once they're over the initial 24 to 48 hours of the illness, then we need to be getting them out as soon as possible, even if it's for meal times. If we educate our staff and tell them why we're doing it, and then they're more likely to carry it out. On the ward, we do PJ paralysis, and that's still ongoing. So every patient's care should be individualised. We obviously need to try and get back to that baseline. So we have care plans that will look at that, and we individualise it to each patient. If you don't use it, you lose it.
When we see patients that come in acutely unwell, we get them better, and it's fantastic really to obviously see someone so poorly, and then when they are safe to go home, getting them discharged. So it's really good, it's really fulfilling. So when looking after our patients, if they don't want to get up and get better, obviously we have a lot of encouraging, getting people out of bed, helping with their chest, encouraging their mobility, and obviously the ultimate goal is getting them home safely.
Everything had been going fine. I'd had cancer, I'd had large lymph nodes, and the cancer had gone, the lymph nodes had gone, and then all of a sudden I had a collapse at home one evening, and basically I was unconscious for nearly, 7 hours. Bottom line, I've been here ever since. I mean, without Les, when Les first saw me in here back in the days, I couldn't stand unaided. I couldn't go to the toilet. Well, I'd start from scratch. People like Beverly and Sean, they're diamonds. They really do care. And that makes life an awful lot easier when you're dealing with somebody that cares. I look forward to seeing Les. I do. So you want, come on, let's get you up. Let's get off down that corridor a bit. Yeah, don't worry, you're not going to fall over. It's a secure arm there all the time. And I know he'll never let me down. Never. He won't never ever let me down. No, none of them will. I've never ever stopped from being a fisherman when I was 7. I had a very sporting background, playing cricket. Unfortunately, I won a lot of money fishing. I won 8,000 quid one day. That was more than a week's wages. I worked virtually all my life in the licensing catering trades. I got married to my wife when I was 27, and I'm 81. And we've never, ever been apart. Yeah, I've got to go. I have got to go fishing the side of a lake. Yeah, fishing the side of the lake, which means, therefore, I would be able to have my car back. I'll be able to drive the car, and I'll be able to fish, and I'll be with my friends. I appreciate what you've done for me. I'm going to get back. I'm going to get back to my friends and my previous life. Said lots of people before. I'm going to get my telegram from the Queen.
So when John come into hospital, he was really poorly, really down. what I wanted to do was get them out of bed, but I had to build them up, get talking to them, get a good morale with them. So every day we used to go in and just do little bits, getting them to the side of the bed to start with. And then we'd try a bit of marching on the spot and try them with the rotunda to start with. And then we moved on to the frame, find out where they worked or what they do, this is what I do, and talk to them and build a bit of trust up with them. You do build a friendship up, and John's a lovely chap. And it is nice when he says, like, you've done well for me and that. It's lovely. Always encourage him and tell them they're doing really well. We're still working with him, but he has got his life back more than before. It was upsetting, and he has been through a lot. They know you've done the best, and it's good from our point of view, physio, but as a hospital, we've all done his best to help him.
Johnny is continuing his recovery at home, spending more time in his garden and with his family, which is great to see. But the reality of his situation remains the same for many of our patients in our hospitals. And so we want to continue to encourage people to get walking and get active throughout National Walking Month and beyond for our patients and our staff and our loved ones.
Brilliant. Thank you so much to everyone that shared those stories today. We really, really appreciate it. And they're just 3 stories from across the county, but we know you guys will have loads and loads of others. And we're really keen for you to share them so we can all motivate each other in what is a really, really tricky health and social care system at the moment. So I'd like to hand over to Rachel Dyer now, who can introduce herself and tell you what we're going to do next.
Thanks, Beth. Morning, everyone. I'm Rachel. I work for an organisation called Active Nuts. We've got some of my lovely colleagues on the call as well that may be your facilitator. So as Beth said, building from those stories, hopefully you've been sat there, like Alice said, you've been taking notes of what stuck with you, what was pertinent, what you want to know more about, and take all that into the breakout space that we're going to move into now. So we're going to have up to 30 minutes. So hopefully a really good amount of time for you all start to get to know each other. We will be putting you in breakout rooms based on where you work ideally, and hopefully we've got that right, and we might have to do some jigging around. But when you signed up, we asked you what part of the county you mainly work in, and that's the reason, so that we can slot you into the right space, so you can start to get to know people if you don't already know them in your place, and really build on that connectivity that we've been talking about today. So when you first go into your breakout space, you'll be asked to introduce yourself, and if you can do that along with sharing what it is that you want to share today. Is there something that you're working on at the minute, or that you'd like to know about, that you'd really want to share with the group, and also what you'd like to learn from other people perhaps, and then we'll sort of open it up so that everybody can have a really good conversation, and then we will be coming back to share a little bit of a highlight of what's been happening in those breakout rooms, and then take it forward to the end of the session. So hopefully that describes what we're going to do. I'm just going to look at Adam for a thumbs up for whether we are good to go. Yes, excellent. Thank you so much, Adam. So if you want to open the breakout rooms, it'll probably give us a 10-second warning at the top. And there we go. So you've been assigned. So if everyone wants to click onto their join now, and we'll see you in a bit.